"Ma'am, this isn't a place for tourists." The words came sharp, firm, but not loud. The kind of tone that doesn't raise its volume, because it doesn't need to. Authority laced in the assumption that you don't belong. She paused mid-step, her boots scuffing the polished tile floor just before the grand entrance of Skyward Air Defense Academy. Her head turned slightly, but her eyes never met the guards. She didn't argue. Didn't bristle or flinch, just silence. And that silence felt like thunder. The uniformed cadets, streamlined haircuts, crisp lapels, embroidered names in gold thread, were already watching. All of them. Some half-turned as they filed into the marble atrium, their eyes scanning her like a glitch in a military-grade program. A woman in a faded t-shirt and sun-bleached jeans, knees torn open from time, not fashion. A canvas duffel bag hung off her shoulder, frayed at the straps. Her boots looked old enough to remember desserts and rain. One cadet snorted under his breath. "Is this some kind of joke?" "Maybe she's here to clean the floors," another replied, not quietly. Inside, beyond the glass doors, the academy stretched out in silver and chrome. Digital banners glowed with motion graphics of jets arcing through cloudless skies. A drone hovered gently, near the ceiling, scanning each ID card with practiced precision. This was where the elite came to earn wings gilded by legacy, where last names weighed more than test scores, where posture and pedigree walked hand in hand. She didn't match, not here. And yet, she walked forward. At the check-in desk, she placed a sheet of paper, not a tablet, not a printed form from the pre-approved system, a handwritten application, folded once down the middle, creased but clean. The woman behind the desk blinked again. She reached for the form as if it might. "Leave a stain. You're applying?" she asked, almost amused. "Ma'am, we only take candidates through the military channels or advanced placement referrals, and—" Her eyes swept down. "There is a dress code." Another guard appeared, silent, arms crossed, just behind her. The woman said nothing. But her gaze, that subtle shift of her eyes, drew away from the desk, toward the glass wall beside them. The simulator bay. There it stood, sleek, carbon black and steel, the Valiant X. The most advanced flight sim ever created. She stepped closer, slow, measured, like she knew not just what it did but what it was. Her head tilted. Her eyes scanned the control console from 20 feet away. A pause. Her brow furrowed, just slightly. She frowned at a small cluster of dials. Ones no untrained eye would notice. It was the look of someone spotting something they once built, now misaligned by a degree. Then, just as slowly, she turned back. No comment. No questions. She didn't come to plead. She didn't ask to prove anything. The cadets kept watching, whispering. "She thinks she's gonna fly here. She should have gone to a recruitment center, not a training citadel." She walked away, boots thudding against clean marble. No applause, no welcome. No one asked for her name. No one asked why she was there. But one technician watched her from the mezzanine above, brows drawn low. Something about the way she moved, the quiet, the stillness, the pause at the simulator. As she reached the main exit, her shadow fell over a display screen. "Welcome to Skyward, where tomorrow's pilots rise." She passed beneath it without looking back, and somewhere between the soundless hush of her footsteps and the echo of forgotten ceilings, a question lingered. She didn't come here to learn to fly. She used to teach people how. They let her fly, not because they believed she should, but because it would be amusing, a quiet decision made behind glass walls and tight smiles. "Let's entertain her," Captain Julian Cross had said, brushing invisible lint off his crisp uniform. His medals caught the light, polished and aligned like everything else about him. "He wants to humiliate her," someone whispered in the control booth, and he did. That was the point. Maya stepped into the Valiant X simulator alone. No team, no gear, just her breath, just her silence. The room behind the glass brimmed with cadets. Most of them stood. Some leaned against the railing, sipping energy drinks and smirking. The simulator hall buzzed with the charged hum of quiet cruelty. Captain Cross stood at the console. A few taps. Subtle, hidden. He loosened the yaw calibration, just enough to throw her off in mid-tilt. He tweaked the HUD settings, flashes every 8 seconds, just enough to break rhythm. He altered the speed warnings, too soon, too loud. None of it would show on the logs. She sat in the pilot seat like it was an old friend. Fingers tracing switches by memory. Eyes forward, shoulders set, no fanfare, no warm-up. The countdown began, and then she launched. The first maneuver, a high G turn, was smooth, not forced. Felt. The HUD blinked. She didn't hesitate. Manual override. Just at angle. Continued. Cadets frowned. She didn't even flinch. Second pass. Evasive dive. The yaw slipped on a hard bank. She caught it. Mid-arc. Counter-adjusted with opposite rudder. The nose realigned in perfect symmetry with the digital horizon. Someone gasped. Third stage. Tactical descent with simulated hostiles. Speed warnings flared early. She slowed just enough. Not too much. Not too little. She threaded through a canyon. Simulation most cadets couldn't finish. Then came the descent. She angled the dive, eyes cold, fingers precise. The Valiant X trembled with calculated turbulence, and she landed. Not roughly, not barely, perfectly. Stillness. No one spoke. Maya exited the cockpit, her breath steady, her eyes calm. Behind the glass, Captain Cross stared at her, his face unreadable. But his pride, it cracked. She ignored critical warnings, he said. Disqualified. Maya didn't answer, she didn't have to. She stepped forward, looked him in the eyes for the first time. You tampered with it, she said, softly. Like rain on pavement, Cross chuckled. You're lucky we let you touch the controls, lady. Then with all eyes watching, he reached into the folder tray beside him, pulled out her application, held it above the table, and tore it clean in half. The sound was louder than the applause she never received. This academy has standards, he said, loud enough for the whole room. You don't meet them. The pieces of her name fluttered to the floor like pieces of ash. She didn't move, didn't break, only turned, quietly, and walked away. The hallway stretched ahead, empty and still. As she passed the portraits of star cadets, men and women, framed in full dress surrounded by medals and headlines, no one turned to follow, no one called after her. One cadet, tucked behind a support beam, whispered to no one in particular, "She just flew like a level 5 pilot." No one replied, and yet no one argued. Maya's boots echoed through the corridor, her silhouette shrinking in the dull evening light. As she neared the exit, she paused. A large banner hung to her right. Our legacy is the sky. Beneath it, the smiling face of a recent graduate, son of a senator, perfect teeth. Jet in the background, she looked at it, just for a second. Not long enough to admire, long enough to remember. And then she stepped past. Her shadow passed over the marble floor, and for one brief moment the camera in the far corner caught the outline of her reflection in the glass, straight-backed, unbent but gone. The morning of the showcase began with polished shoes, folded flags, and the scent of ambition. Skyward Air Defense Academy gleamed under the sun. The glass panels shimmered. Jets lined up like museum pieces on the runway. Staff moved with practiced efficiency, cadets triple-checking every crease, every pin. This was the day generals came to watch. The day billionaires smiled from the VIP pavilion. Captain Cross stood front and center on the stage, microphone clipped, jaw set. Beside him, the Dean of Skyward, hands clasped tight behind his back. Flags waved high behind them, and the anthem began to play. Soft at first, swelling with patriotic pride. No one noticed the sound at first. A low hum, faint, far away, but it grew. It didn't come from the scheduled flyover. It came from above, straight down. A shape pierced the cloud, layer like a blade of light. Not standard issue. The aircraft was unlike anything on the tarmac. Sleek, silver, a body of pure muscle and beauty, cutting through the air with predator grace. No one at Skyward had seen this jet in action. Not in person. Only on future promo concept sheets and classified blueprints, the Valiant X-2, a jet not yet released, not yet given to anyone. And yet, it was here. The crowd stiffened. Phones lifted. The cadets turned in waves, eyes wide. The jet spiraled once, clean, fast, and then pulled into a silent dive straight toward the ground. Someone screamed, but the jet didn't falter. It slowed, skimmed the edge of the runway like a feather dipped, fire, and landed. Dead center, not a tremor, not a breath wasted. Then came the hiss. The canopy rose. The pilot climbed out, helmet tucked under one arm. She stood tall on the wing, the sun behind her, casting a long shadow across a field of uniforms in disbelief. Maya gasps, camera flashes, a heartbeat of collective confusion. Then a single cadet said it aloud. "That's her." Cross's face drained of color. A professor's voice cracked. She's. Phones rose, hands shaking. The silence snapped like a rope. Maya stepped off the wing. Her boots touched skyward soil again. But now it belonged to her. She walked forward, each footstep echoing louder than the last. No fanfare. No apology. Just presence. She took the stage without asking. Cross stepped back. She looked out, not at the generals or the VIPs, but at the rows of cadets who had watched her be laughed at. The same faces that turned away when her name was torn in half. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "I didn't come here to impress you," she began, calm, low. "I came to see how you treat people who don't look like you, who don't dress like you, who walk in without a badge or a name you recognize." She looked at Cross. "You showed me." Behind her, the screen on stage lit up unprompted. A video began to play, a cockpit, nighttime, turbulence. Maya's voice crackling through the comms. "Hostile contact requesting clearance, target identified, marking." "For evac." Another cut, her dragging a wounded pilot from the wreckage of a burning plane. Then, Maya, younger, smiling, standing in the middle of a training field in Kandahar, instructing a circle of wide-eyed female cadets, all of them Afghan, all of them listening to her like she was the only solid ground in their sky. More images. Flight hours logged, 2,346. Combat missions, 17. Evac ops, 8. Aircraft designed, 1. The Valiant X, the very simulator they sabotaged. Her name, Lt. Colonel Maya. Tran finally illuminated in full. The silence cracked again, then came a clap, one cadet, then another, then the whole field. The applause started soft, but it grew like thunder. Sound no one at Skyward had ever heard used for someone like her. Cross stepped back once more. Someone handed Maya a microphone again, but she didn't speak this time. She just looked at the rows of young cadets. One of them, a girl with trembling fingers and thick glasses, met her eyes, and Maya nodded. To her, to all of them, to every version of herself that had ever been turned away. The applause had faded, but the tremor it left behind did not. In the hours after Maya's landing, Skyward's gleaming hallways were no longer quiet with confidence. They pulsed with tension, the kind of silence that made people whisper even when no one was around. The video was everywhere now, clipped, cropped, reposted. Rejected pilot lands unreleased jet in front of stunned academy. She taught soldiers. She designed the Valiant X. They tore up her name. The clip of Captain Cross ripping her application, looped endlessly with reactions stitched beside it. Outrage bloomed across networks. Hashtags trended before sundown. People remembered her name now. Not because it was told to them, but because they searched for it. Lt. Kohler's Maya Tran. Inside the academy boardroom, the mood had changed. Cross was suspended. The dean's voice trembled as he read the apology statement, printed on crisp letterhead and smeared with panic. "We acknowledge a grievous failure in judgment. Our academy, built on excellence, must also stand on respect. We failed to see greatness where it did not wear the expected uniform. Outside that very room, cadets clustered in uneasy silence. Some glanced at the door, others looked down at their boots. Then, quietly, a voice broke through. "I'm ashamed," said a girl, petite, dark-skinned, with braids tied back too tightly. She was one of the youngest in her class. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried. I laughed at her when she came in. I thought she didn't belong. And the truth is, I was scared. Because deep down, I worry they'll say that about me too. Few cadets looked up. Another boy, tall and soft-eyed, took a step forward. "I come from a farm town. We didn't even have internet strong enough for remote sim practice. When I first arrived, I pretended to be from a city just to be taken. Seriously. Now I wonder how many more of us are hiding." Maya stood in the back of the room. She'd come quietly. No announcement, no stage. Just to listen. But they saw her, and the room shifted. She stepped forward. Not as a figure to admire, but one to follow. She didn't raise her voice. She simply said, "To lead, you must first learn to listen. And when you're silenced long enough, you begin to hear things others miss." She paused. Excellence isn't always adorned in medals. It doesn't always wear the right color or walk the expected way. Sometimes it enters the room quietly, just to see how you treat it. No one moved. Some lowered their heads. Others looked at her like they were seeing clearly for the first time. In the days that followed, Skyward changed. Old posters were taken down. New ones went up. A new mural in the eastern hallway. Maya in her flight suit. One hand resting on the nose of the Valiant X, the other holding a flight helmet at her side, her expression calm, focused. Beneath the image, "Judge less, fly further." Cadets stopped in front of it every day, not to admire, to remember. Back in the simulator hall, the console was updated. An anonymous note was added to every pilot file. "Your background will never fly your jet for you, only you will." And deep in the archives of the Academy, a new protocol was drafted. Applications no longer asked for photographs. Dress code exemptions were allowed for first-time applicants. Instructor evaluations were now blind to names and affiliations. Some called it overcorrection, others called it progress, but most simply called it overdue. And through it all, Maya remained, not as a symbol, but as a guide. She didn't ask for power. She became power by never needing to ask. Time passed, but the echo remained. Skyward Air Defense Academy did not erase what happened. It carved it into its walls. The changes came slowly at first, then all at once. The new admission system went live within weeks. No profile pictures. No legacy checkboxes. Just flight data, aptitude, and heart. Diversity didn't just trickle in. It soared. The corridors once lined with identical ambition now hummed with different accents, different skin tones, different stories. And still, the jets flew just the same. Maya stayed, not in command, not behind a desk. She refused titles, refused interviews. She moved like the wind, present but not imposing. Her office was small, glass walls, one chair for guests, no medals on display, no certificates framed. Just one thing, the faded t-shirt, the same one she wore the day they laughed at her, now hanging in a simple wooden frame beside her desk. A note beneath it, handwritten, "Remember where we began, but never stay there." She mentored quietly, one-on-one, no lectures, no podiums. She taught students how to read winds, not just instruments, how to feel engines by listening, not watching, how to fly with the machine, not against it. They called her the silent ace, not because she didn't speak, but because her words were few and stayed. One afternoon, Hangar 3 was quiet. Inside the simulator, a young cadet, a girl barely 17, brown skin, calloused hands from a childhood spent climbing coconut trees instead of watching jets, gripped the yoke. Her fingers trembled. "I can't," she whispered. "I can't do it." Maya stood behind her, silent for a moment. Then she stepped forward and laid a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder. "Breathe." The girl closed her eyes. "Your hands. Maya said softly, are just remembering something your heart already knows. The engines hummed, the simulator began, and the girl flew. Outside, the evening sun stretched long across the tarmac. Golden light touched every corner of the academy, softening the harsh metal edges, turning the runways into rivers of fire and forgiveness. Later that evening, as the cadets filed out, one lingered near Maya's office. He watched the t-shirt. Through the glass, creased, faded, defiant, he turned to the girl who had flown earlier. Why do you think she keeps it? He asked. The girl smiled. To remind us that wings don't grow in perfect places. That night, Maya sat alone at her desk. No noise, no ceremony. She looked at the old shirt, then at her hands, calloused, still strong. She opened her drawer. Inside lay a folded note. A quote from a mentor long past. One day, someone will forget your name, but not how you made them feel when they were about to give up. She placed the note beside the frame and smiled. Because in the halls of Skyward now, there were stories, being written that had nothing to do with bloodlines. Wings rose not from legacy but from courage, and that was enough. If her silence moved you, let your voice carry her legacy. Share the silent ace with someone who's ever been overlooked, underestimated, or told they don't belong. Because sometimes the ones the world ignores are the ones who fly furthest.